So first thing, just create a open your Visual Studio. Okay. Today we have many things to cover, and in the final exam, I mean last week's class and today's class are the most important for your final exam. Okay, these two things are they cover the core concepts that you are gonna use in your final exam. And I think the final exam you will do something similar to the lab assignments for these modules. For this module, yes. And so just watch it carefully, okay? And so let's go ahead and create a new project. And from here, from this point, maybe you can continue if you like these topics areas, we can continue developing some other simple projects, because I know some of you guys wanna move on. So I will go and create this one, okay? ASP.NET Core. So if you have Core, you should do no web app, no, sorry. You should mine is here, but I can just search it here. Windows. Did someone say something? Windows Forms app. So don't choose the .NET Framework one. Choose this one. That says nothing. So I will click next, and then I will say module 12.
Can you share your screen, please?
Sorry, I will do that. I thought I did. So we are just creating the project. So before that, I just want to highlight that you can search for Windows Forms, not Windows Forms, and then choose this one, not the one that says .NET Framework. Okay, this one has .NET Core, which is different than .NET Framework. That's why I asked you to install this one, Core, the version Core. Although it doesn't say it, but it uses Core, and Core is the most updated one, recommended one to use. So I will click next. Module 12, let's say Archon, and then 2015 fall. And next, and then as you see, it shows here as well. Although here you could still choose the .NET Framework, typical one, but here you should choose Core version. And when we install Entity Framework, we choose the Core versions. That's but you haven't created your project with the other one, you haven't used Core version, then these packages will not work. So let me put close this. I think I have today's slides also in OTU class. Okay, you have a PDF in OTU class available. So I will also open it in my computer. And at the end of the class, if you have questions about the lab, you can ask me. Okay, I will be a little bit. I will have some time. So maybe I should put this here first. So today we will learn about these one-to-many relationships in Entity Framework. But before that, we will cover something called like conventions and configurations in Entity Framework to provide additional settings. For example, normally it creates tables automatically based on the name of the classes, right? But if you want to change the name of the table, then we may need to add some configurations. So we will first cover these default conventions. So first one is the convention for primary key, right? For example, in the previous week, we just said int ID, right? We defined an ID, and this was based on this, entity framework created an ID primary key in the table, right? Automatically it has done that. But we can also try different things. So we will learn these different options. So what I will do is I will go back to my code. And here I will create a new folder in my Solution Explorer. I will go and create a new models folder, or model, I think, I can't remember. I think the model. And inside there, we will add a new, oops, I double click, but that's fine. And inside model, I will again add a class. We will add the album class. Okay, I will just write album and then add. And here we will just define an album. Okay, just an previously we used ID, right? So we'll create an ID property. We will create a string album name. We will create the date released. So we will say public. We will use the date time type and released. It will be the name of the feature. And then next one will be the length of the album. So normally here, when you provide a property for your class with the name of ID and the type of integer, entity framework assumes that this is going to be the primary key of your album table in the database. So it just makes an assumption. So these are kind of default configurations. So there's reason why we explicitly write here ID. Okay. So this means entity framework understands that this is going to be your primary key in the table. Another option here, so you can use two options here. Another option is you can just say album ID. Okay, and it's gonna work the same name, right? Did you guys see? I changed the property name to ID, from ID to album ID, and it will work the same name. Entity framework will still think that this is the primary key for this table in the data, because the first part is the name of this class, and the second part is ID. Okay. So there are two options, okay, two default configurations. So you can keep only ID, or you can make it album ID. Okay, those options, those two properties will be the primary key for the table. So, and beside that, you may realize that previously the table name for this entity, for this class, will be albums, right? So it just uses these rules of pluralization in English. It just puts, as at the end, it makes it in the database table albums. The table for this entity will be albums. So if it is like child, it will make it children. Okay, don't change it. Just give an example. So whatever the name of this entity, this class, it will be mapped to a table whose name will be the same plural version of this class. So this is just by default settings. We database based on this entity, right? So to do that, so first step is creating the classes. Okay. Second step is adding the DB context file in the model folder. So right click here, add here, then new class, and here I will add the DB context, music DB context file. But I think before doing this, so if we want to inherit this class from this DB context file, right? But it doesn't exist. So if I go here, it will say generate. It won't offer the using option, right, to import this. So this is because we didn't install entity framework to our project. So what I will do is what I will do is I will go ahead and install go to these manage NuGet packages. Right click on the project name, go to the NuGet package manager, and here just write entity framework core. And it should show up once you have done it before, it will show up in the list. So you don't have to write all text here. So I will choose the first one, click. Here, one problem is there's some conflict and it doesn't accept the versions higher than 5 in my case. So that's why I always choose the version 5.0.0. So I will install this. And at the bottom, you should see the output after click accept that, as you see, I think it installed it, right? Yeah, it installed it, I think. And then I will go ahead, click the, I think, this SQL server. Not this one. I will choose the different version 5.0.0. Accept. And then I think tools, we will install the or I don't know if these are the, or the relational one. So we will install the relational one. So I will choose the 5.0.0 and click install. Accept. So we installed like the core, relational, and then the SQL server right now. Okay, 3 things: the SQL server, relational, and just the basic the entity framework code. So now I will go back to my code. This MusicDB context over there. I will go here. I will go over this bulb and then click here and then choose this time. As you see, it offers the solution that we want. So I will click this one. And as you see now, it's the namespace of entity framework core is imported in our project. So here, first thing we need to do is to indicate the database connection, right? Connection string, and we do this. We do this using this statement here. And so basically we need to define this method, and inside there we provide this string. And I recommend you guys just actually copy and paste this from a PDF or wherever you want, although I will write it. But for your projects, just not to make a typo, you can just copy and paste it, okay? So I will write it here. If you actually override, it will offer you the possible options, and one of them is actually on configure. So I will press enter, and it will generate some code for me. This part I will delete, and here what I will write is options builder, which is the parameter passed to this function, and I will use SQL server. And inside there, I just define the query string. Oops. And for the query string, so I will actually just copy and paste from my PDF. You can also copy and paste from your previous project. So this is the connection string. And it tells me to put semicolon. And here I will change the name because I think we created this previous one, music management. And here I will say just email version 2. So with this configuration, we tell entity framework which server we want to use to create the database and what will be the database that we want to use. This one. If the database doesn't exist, first time it will be created by entity framework when the application is run first time, or when we actually install it using the migrations. So now we need to tell in this framework that we want to create a table for this class, album class, right? So to do that, we need to just add here public db set with type of album, and we will name it as album here. So the steps were we created our class, then we installed Entity Framework, right? And then we created this music DB context, which derives from DB context. DB context belongs to Entity Framework core. That's why we had to install Entity Framework core. And inside here, we add this configuration to indicate the database connection string to tell Entity Framework which server we want to use, which is local database, and which database we want to use. And here we also, last thing is to indicate for which entities we want to create and database table. So indicated using this DB set type. And here you normally provide a plural name of this entity. If it is album, you would normally say albums here. And that's it. Next thing is to add migration and then update database based on this migration. So to do migration, in my case, I have package manager console open at the bottom. If it is not, you can, I can't remember. I think
in view section.
yes, in view also there is also in these toolbars, I think.
Other windows.
Other, right? Where's the other?
Views, no doubt. Other
Okay.
windows.
And here, package manager console, but I think we also have this in tools, Nugget package manager right here. So this, I think, a bit easier to find. If you find this Nugget, and then it's just here. Package manager console. See, I already have it opened. And we will, first thing is we will add migration. So I just typed, let me see, it doesn't show up. So I will try, let's say, first time DB, it doesn't matter what you put. As you see, it didn't recognize. That means actually we are missing still some packages. Okay, I think around here, I will choose this one, the tools. Did you guys see? It explains for Nugget package manager console. So we need to install this as well. So I will go here and then choose 500 and then accept. So now we also have the tools installed. So now if I go back to my package manager console, if I run the same thing again, now I will write it migration. I will press tab. As you see, it already auto completed because there is this option right now. We installed these tools. Add migration. Let's say first time DB, or you can say DB creation. It doesn't matter the name. Okay, something descriptive is sufficient. So I will press enter. So this kind of a running some commands in the console. So this is gonna do its own tasks. It's gonna create this migration file. Now it's working on that. As you see, it created a migration file. So basically what it does is it says create a table named albums in the database. And here are the details about the columns for this album. And it says primary key for this album will be album ID of this class album class. But you don't need to worry about these details normally. And next thing is just run update database comment. So we'll press enter. Yes, it says done. So if you see this done message, then that means you are good. Your migration is applied successfully. If I go to SQL Server Object Explorer, and here SQL Server, local DB, databases, and as you see, it's created here. And the table, my database name is this, which is correct, and here are the albums. And as you see, it has the album ID is primary key, PK, it says, and the other fields are here. So far, so good. Any questions? No. So now we will do some changes. So let's say we have a database team, okay, other guys, and they have other preferences. They don't use the same naming conventions that we use in our code, right? For example, they want to have a different table name, right? So automatically right now the table name will be albums, right? It's album. So we want to change this. To do that, we use some data annotations. These are called data annotations. So one of them is, and they are indicated with square brackets like this, and they just go before what you want to change. So we want to change the name of the album table in the database. So we write this just before this class definition, and here we just type table. Normally, first it won't show it because we need to import the related classes. So I will mouse over and then choose this one. Use system blah blah schema. Once you choose that solution, this will be added to the top, and here for the table, what you need to do is in the parentheses you provide the specific name for the table in the database. So we want album entity to be stored to a table called, let's say, album records. So this is gonna change the name of this album table to album records. Okay, it's normally albums, right? Plural version of album by default. So we can change it using this data annotation. And the same way, for example, maybe they use a different primary key. So let's say they always use item ID. Okay. So in this case, for example, it's the framework will not know this is actually will be the primary key for table because it's not ID or it's not album ID. Two options are default for defining primary key, but if it is something else, for example, item ID, right? Then you need to indicate that this is gonna be primary key in the table. To do that, we just say here, right key, okay, and it won't be listed. You need to import again this class data annotations. So now that means this field will be the primary key in our table because we added this data annotation just before this field, this property. And let's continue. Let's say album name, we want to put some also constraints. We say its minimum length, let's say it will be 3, and I will put comma to add another constraint. And we'll say max length will be, let's say, 150 characters. And we can go ahead and also change the like release is the name of the column in our database, right? Release here. So maybe the database designers wants a different column. So we can change this. To do that, here we add the data annotation. And here we write column. We use data annotation column, and inside there we provide a new column. So we say release date, for example. For the last one, the length, so we want to define a range, okay? Because the integer value, so we may want to add a range for this one. And we will say, let's say between 100 and 1 and 100. So we have done some changes. So we have done these changes after the database is created. Okay, this is the first time we are doing this. Okay, so be careful. So these changes has to be reflected in the database. Otherwise, there will be conflict between your model definition, right, and what model definition and the previous model definition you used to create this table. Did you see like it has different primary key, has a different table name, and they're all different. So what we need to do is we need to add a new migration and reflect these changes in the database. So we will go here. We will write, otherwise your code will not work. Add new migration, add migration, and then let's say basic updates. You can give any name, it doesn't matter. You can just there are A, B, C, D, it doesn't matter. So I write item migration, but if it's a big project, then you may want to know what updates you do and why. So that's why in that case you would put some descriptive name for the migration. So now if I go back to my table and this migration file, as you see, it renames the table from album to album records. It will rename the column and so on. It will do some changes based on what we put in our model. So to reflect these changes, I will go here and then write update database. Now I press enter. So now it says done. So the migration is applied. So if we go to our SQL Server Object Explorer, what you need to do is first right click on the database and then choose refresh. So I did this. So if I go now my table, as you see, the table name is now album records. Change. And I will go to columns, and as you see, primary key is now item. So we use data annotation, change some of the default conventions. And as you see, a release is now a release date. And actually with album name and length, there is no changes, although we define these, where is it? Yeah, here. Although we indicated some ranges, right? For example, for length, we indicated ranges, and for album name, we said it should be minimum 3, maximum 150 length. But these are not, some configuration can be done in databases. In databases, there is no such configurations, but when user wants to enter, for example, length value beyond this range, then there will be an automatic error. So the system will not let them enter some values beyond this constraint. So these constraints are only applied in C# type part. They are not applied in the database because these configurations are not possible in database. There is no option in database, SQL database, to say, okay, this length will be between 1 and 100. Okay. Just as I said, integer, it shouldn't be now, and that's it. But what will happen is when we want to add a value that is beyond, for example, 100, then C# compiler will throw an error. It won't let us enter that value. Okay, that's the point with these constraints here. So this is the first part that I want to cover. Any questions so far? So, okay, that's good. So it was kind of repetition what we have done before, but we just learned about these data annotations. And so now we are going to learn about these one-to-many relationships. Do you guys know about one-to-many relationships, one-to-one, many-to-many? Any data guys? No. But you guys got database class, no? Right? But these are kind of very important in databases, but maybe you guys forget. But no worries. I will remind you guys. So one-to-many relationship is one of the most common relationships that happens in databases. For example, a typical example, a customer can have many credit cards, but each credit card is associated with one person, right? One credit card cannot belong to more than one person. So for example, this is a one-to-many relationship. Or an instructor can have many courses, but one course is associated with only one instructor, right? That's why it says one-to-many, okay? For example, here we have this table, you guys see? So we have customers, okay? Just assume we have some customers here, customer ID, and we have some credit cards here, okay? Just focus on this part. discard this owner part. But normally a customer can have many credit cards, right? One option could be here, just add a new column here in the customer field, right? For example, credit card IDs. And then, but in this case, for each one, you would have to add multiple values. Let's say, if this has, let's say, 5 credit cards, let's say you would need to add 144, maybe with comma, with semicolon. So you need to think about some kind of designs. Because then in each column, in each these cells, you would have to indicate multiple card IDs. And actually, this is not recommended practice, design in databases. Okay, this breaks many principles. So that's why this is not recommended. On the other hand, what we do is you think like this credit card table is a child table and this is a parent table. So parent can have many childs. Okay. What you do is for each child here, you indicate the owner, indicate the parent. How? You put its primary key of the parent table in there, right? So as you see, we can repeat as many as we want this prime owner ID, right? Customer ID. It's actually reference the customer ID in this customer table. So no problem here with repeating it. And this is so convenient to write some SQL queries, for example, say, get all the credit cards that belongs to this customer, for example, 123. But if you follow the other approach, you put all card information here, then that will be a bit problematic. Is this part fine, more or less? So we will try to reflect this relationship in entity framework. This is our goal. And you guys remember I mentioned this. So this is like the foreign key. Okay, don't forget this. This is the foreign key. And foreign key in the child table reference the primary key of the parent table. So each foreign key here has to match a value in the primary key of the parent table, right? So here, for example, if you have 3 customer IDs here on 22, 24, then here you cannot add something else. So when you create foreign key, there is this constraint. These values here has to reference a value in the parent table. That's why we put this constraint, like this is the foreign key for this table, and this is associated with the primary key of the parent table. So what we are going to do is we'll do this and then we'll have break. So we will go back to our table, our class, sorry guys, our code. So what I will do is I will actually delete this one. So I don't want to actually give a different table name. So I will delete this. And I will also delete this key. And I want to just keep this, let's say, ID, like the way we did before. And I will leave the rest. So we actually revert back some of the options, some of the changes. And what we are going to do is now, so we have the album class, right? So each album can have many songs. So what we are going to do is we will create the songs entity. So I will go model, I will click add, I will go class, and then here I will write song entity as a class. So let's go ahead and add its properties first, and almost it will have a primary key field property. So it will be almost always just public int ID. And let's say we also want to add a title for the song, or maybe song name. I don't know which one is better. Let's say name this time. And let's put a constraint here. So I will say min length for this will be 2. So it should have at least 2 letters, or maybe 1 letter, who knows. And I will mouse over this min length, and then choose this option, and then choose this using statement. And then let's say we also want to put max length. It will be, let's say, 100. And under this, I will add public int length property. And here is the range. Let's say It can be, I don't know, 15 seconds to 600 seconds. So now we have created the other entity, right? So we have two entities, songs and albums. And so if I go ahead and add a migration and then update my database, do you guys think this song, that will be the entity framework? Is it gonna create a table, songs in the database or not? So if I go ahead right now and add a new migration here, do you guys think it's gonna add it or not? My answer is no, because we have to actually define it here as well in the DB context file. So here we have to indicate explicitly that in the database, we want to have a songs table. So don't forget this step, okay? Always add this DB set for each entity. So add it in the DB context file. So right now, let's go ahead and add a migration. So we'll go and say add. So when you add a new class, also you may want to update your database. So I will say add migration. Let's say song table. Just a constant name create song table. It doesn't matter. So build started. Build succeeded. So first, your application has to build successfully. If there are some errors in your code, then the migration will fail. So you need to first fix any problems in your code to be able to run the migration to update your database. Okay. So if you have any code problem in your application, any errors, then migration is not gonna work. So now it's created this migration file, which is good. And then here I will go and then update my database. And then if it updates successfully, we will have a break. Yeah, it updates successfully. Now, if I go my database, I will go here and refresh it. As you see now, we have two tables. Song table has its columns, which are fine, and albums has its own columns, which are fine. As you see now, the table name has changed back to albums. It doesn't say album records anymore, and its primary key is changed to ID. It's not item ID that we have changed previously. So, any questions? Tamam, ona şimdi bakalım. So we will have a break. We will start at 40, and I hope we will have enough time to finish everything. If not, we can leave a little bit late, because this part is very important for lab and for your final assignment. Okay. So okay, let's have a break, and we will start. I don't know, in 10 minutes. In 35, let's start. You guys, if you can come. You can come in time. So, guys, we'll have a break. If you have any questions, meanwhile, please let me know. And I see we don't have so many participants today. Ozan and Doğukan is not here, and some of you guys are not here. Anyway. So let's continue, right? So we have created the two entities, okay? And we have our database updated based on these entities. And normally you would expect that there's some relationship between these two entities, right? So each album can have many songs, right? But an album can have only one, no, and song can be associated with only one album, okay? So this is the relationship we have. Actually, it's an example for one-to-many relationship, okay? So don't forget, right? So first thing, okay, first thing I said was each album has many songs. So right now, this song entity and the album entity are not aware of each other. They exist as individual entities without knowing each other. Okay, that's why, for example, in the database, there is no foreign key created here. If we make them know each other, be aware of each other in a certain way, then you would actually have the foreign key created in the table. Foreign key would go to the song, right? Songs table, because here you would have a foreign key that indicates to which album that song belongs. So in this relationship, right, album can have many songs. So you need to phrase this in your mind when you work on a new project, okay, to make this relationship clear in your mind. So in this case, if an album can have many songs, we can indicate it here with this property. So we'll create a list type that can contain song instances, and we will name this just as song. So what we did is actually this is called, I will write here, navigation property to indicate the child entity. And here basically we say an album can have many songs. Okay, so this is the many part of this one-to-many relationships. So we indicate this by basically creating this navigation property. So right now, album is aware of the song's entity. Okay, they now knows that it has some association with the song. Okay, by using this property. And what we need to do is we need to also make song class aware of the album entity, right? Song has to know that it is associated with a certain album. So I will go here. So what I need to do is write another property, navigation property. So I say song is associated only one album, right? In this case, I won't create a list. I will just create an album type. And here I will name parent album. So this is the name of the property for this class, property for this class. And its type is album. And here I will just put get and set accessors. And here I will highlight it. So this is the navigation property to indicate the parent entity. Okay. And this means a song can only have one album, or can belong to me, can belong to. So this is the one part of this one-to-many relationship. So now to reflect this relationship in the database, in which there will be a foreign key created by its framework automatically. But to do that, we need to add a new migration. Migration, let's say foreign key maybe, or song album. I will just song album. Just I will write song album. Doesn't matter really the text you put here. So I will write this, run this, and then it will create the migration file, as you see here. As you see, did you see? It all does is creating this at foreign key. So it will create a foreign key for us, once we update database. So I will write update database and press enter. And now it's finished running, and then I will go to SQL Server. So where do you expect foreign key to be created? In which table? Is it in albums table or songs table? Yes, I'm checking. Yes, it's songs. As you see, it has the parent album ID. So the child table has reference to the ID in the parent table. So it's the parent album ID referencing the ID of the album here. And did you guys see it has a specific name? So if I go to songs, then let's say view designer and small. And here, did you see it has a parent album ID? So it actually has some reason why it is named like this. So there's a reason why it's named like this, because here in our code, the navigation property name is the parent album. Did you guys see song? This is actually kind of the foreign key, right? So it's get this. It at the end of this, it adds the ID of the parent entity. Did you guys see? That's why it is called parent album ID. So it gets the name of this navigation property plus the name of the primary key in the parent album, which is album parent table, which is ID here. Okay. That's why here it names it parent album and ID. So this comes from the navigation property in the song table, this one. And the ID comes from the album, its primary key, this. So if you name this something else, let's say if it were album ID, then here it would name be parent album ID. Okay. So there is a reason why it's named like this. So the reverse this. And we will do one more thing, but I think I will do this later. For now, what we are going to do is, so we will leave it as it is right now. And so one thing, later we will change something here. Okay, no, we will do it later. And because I want you guys to see why we have to change it. Before that, what I will do is so each song has its length properties. And based on this, we can actually compute the length of the album automatically. Okay, here, right? We can actually compute this based on the songs it has. So the user doesn't have to enter this previously, but I still want to keep it. Maybe I will use it. What I will do is I will make this as not mapped. That means when database is created, we tell entity framework that don't create a field for it in the database. Okay, they don't create a column with this property in the database. That says don't map it. So when we later run the migration, here this field won't be available. It will be removed from database. Length won't be in the database. It will be only available in the programming side. So we do this by excluding it from the mapping. And I'm going to close this. And so what we are going to do is now we will build an application based on these, entities and the database. What we are going to do is build this interface to create an album, to create a song, and then list them in the list boxes. So first we will add a tab control, which will have 3 tabs: manage album, manage songs. The last one lists albums and songs. The manage albums will have just 2 fields, name and date time field, and a button. And at the end, of course, a label. So I will go to back my form, add a table, add a tab control. Here, go to toolbox. And here we have the tab control. I will make it a bit big. I will choose the tab control, and then here on the properties there is this where is it? Tab pages collection. So click there. So first tab page will be text. Its header will be manage albums, and its name will be, let's say, tab page albums. Second one will be tab page underscore songs. And its text will be manage songs, although we will only create. Manage normally would include updating them, but anyways. And we will add a new one. The last, yes.
Ben bu kısmı bulamadım da collection editor.
It's here. Tab pages collection. Tab pages.
Okay.
But you need to check, make sure that you selected the not here. Did you see? Now it selects instead. You need to click here. Okay. You should see like here in the property. You see it says tab control 1. It worked.
It's okay. Thank you.
And so the last one, it will have text, let's say, list the records. I will just say this. I think it's too worded to say these albums and songs. And here, and the name will be tab page underscore and records. So you can give it a different name based on your preferences. It doesn't matter, but they should just have a meaningful names that you can remember easily later. So I will click OK, and I will have this in my form. So first tab page will be used to create an album. So to do that, first I will add a label, and next to it I will add a text box. Label, I will name it, I will just change its text. I will say album title. I can't remember how we named this in the class. So if you check your class, we named actually name, album name. So we can actually also follow the same album name. But it doesn't matter. But it's better to have some consistency. And nope, I made a mistake. And now I will change the name of this text field, which will be, of course, txt underscore album name. Txt underscore album name. And I will add another label just under this. And its text, I will only change its text. I don't care its name. And its name will be release date. And here I want user to choose a date using a calendar view. And I think for this purpose, I use this one. No, I think I use date time picker. Yeah, it's this one. You guys see it's in the common Windows form, so I will move this and put it here. And its name, I will name as, so it's date time picker. I will just choose the initials DTP and let's say release date. And under this, I will just place a button, which its name will be, let's say, btn create album, and its text will be create album, I think. And here I just want to add a label. Let's say LBL message album. So you want to just give a message when the album is created. Actually, the text will be fill the form to create an album, and its value, its name, actually not value, sorry. Name, I will change it to LBL message album because I want to refer to this label to give a confirmation message when the album is created successfully. So now we have our form ready to create an album. So what I need to do is just double click on the create album. So everyone has created this part. Any problems? Okay, that's good. So I will double click on create album. You guys are faster than me. So what I will do is we will use try catch if block to catch any errors, maybe database errors, maybe there will be some problems in database server. So we want to catch these errors and so that our program won't crash and we can display a custom message. So try catch. Catch doesn't go here, catch goes here. And exception is X. So when the exception is caught, we'll just update the LBL message album. You guys remember at the bottom we place a label. So we will print there some error message. And error has occurred. More info. So I will, I think, hide this and this and this. More info plus. So we can hold it this X object, its message property will store some detailed information about possible error. So that's it. So any error happens when we create an album, this message will be displayed, and this message will include some details about the error as well. So to create an album, so whenever you do a database operation from this interface, you have to create a DB context file. So to prevent creating it multiple times, we can just actually create one. Outside, that's fine, but okay, for now, let's create it just here. Whenever we want to use it, we can create it, let's say. So first, so based on these data provided by user, we need to first create the album instance. Okay, this is the first thing we need to do. So we'll create a new album. Let's say, so I will write album. It won't list it in the, I won't show it in this list, suggestion list, because its class, its namespace is not important. So I will write just album, then go here, and then choose this solution. That means include the, import its namespace. If you go tab, as you see, it's already imported here. So now I will say album, let's say user album equals new album. So here you can just write like this, right? User album that it will show the available options, right? Album name and blah blah. But this kind of writing a little bit repetitive sometimes. So what I recommend is just add this, put these curly braces, directly define the object content here. So here, if you press a space button, it will actually show you the list of items, options, right? The properties that you can change about this album instance. So first one will be the album name, which will be the txt album name dot text. And here the problem, not problem, the different syntax is that you shouldn't put semicolon, you should put comma. And then here I will press just space and it will show me the other things. So here, what else are we gonna change? Our ID, we won't set anything, okay? You don't set any ID values. It will be automatically generated in the database. Length, we won't also provide any value for this because it will be computed based on the available songs. And release, so the user has to needs to choose the release date, so we will set this. And to set this, I need to check how we use this. So what all we need to do is data time picker, release date, and get its value, and that's it. Oops, again. And this is all the things we want to define for the albums. So as you see, this value returns date time, right? We define this release also as date time in our class, so that's perfect. We could, for example, it still asks if you want to add things like you can define songs here, but we won't do it. We will add songs later. Okay, so we just provide these two basic data for the new album. And what's next is quite simple. So to add this album instance to the database, we need to first create the DB context file, which is actually music DB context. Let's say we just name it underscore DB equals new music DB context. So this DB context, right? This is an instance of this music DB context where we have these properties, right? So we will just reference to this property. So DB, it has this attribute property. It's a DB set type, and here I can choose the add function, and in there I just need to provide my new album instance created based on the user data. So I will just put it here. That's it. And last thing we need to do is always remember to call save changes method of the DB context. Otherwise, this is not going to be inserted to the database. So now the things are saved in the database, our new album. What we are going to do is show custom message. So to do that, we have this LBR message album, right? So we will set this text to album is created, and we will change its font color. For color, we will change the font color using the for color property. We will change it to color, let's say dark olive green. And then we can also set the album name to empty string. So we've reset that field. And I think if you want, you can also set the date time picker to change its value to, let's say, date time object. Here you can choose now. So whatever data user entered, they will be reset using this code after the album is added to the database. So let's run this. I will press run. You can still see the code on the screen. So now I have this form. So I will enter album name. I don't know. Do you guys have any suggested names? I don't know. My own album, whatever. So I will go here and you can choose any date. And then we will click create album. As you see, there was an error, and it showed us this error actually, but sometimes it's cropped, you cannot see it. I don't know why there was an error. Do you guys also run into the same error? No.
No, I have the same.
The same error. Okay. And in this case, what I'm going to do is actually I will print this message in the message box show. Okay, let's see what is the error. Or another option is to run this by clicking this with debugging enabled. So I will do that. So I have this here, from name, and date is already selected. I will click create button. And I record while updating the entries, see the inner expression. So actually I will put a line break here. I will click create button. And I will go here. I will check these details more, to be honest. It says cannot insert null into column length of the album. So this says albums has a length property still, and you don't provide any values, and says you cannot do this. You have to provide a value for the length. And I think the problem here is if you go back to your database, as you see, it still has a length column here. And I think we were supposed to run one more time migrations to update the database. Because you guys remember, we said, okay, this shouldn't be mapped to database anymore, but still we still have this length column. And then you provide empty value, it says you cannot provide empty value because in the database, it says not null, which you guys see. That's why it creates the problem. So I will go ahead and add a new migration. Let's say delete column. And now as you see, it actually automatically figures out that this column has to be dropped because it's defined with not mapped data annotation. So I will go ahead and update database. So whenever you run this kind of problems, it's better to add one more time migration and then update your database, just in case you forget something. Because any changes you do in your model, in your classes, has to be reflected in the database. So now I will again run my application. Album name will be my album. I will click create album. Now as you see, it worked. It says album is created. So if I go my database, view data on the albums table. Now, as you see, we have our record here, and as you see, it doesn't have the length column. That was causing the problem. There was a mismatch between our model and then the database. Any questions? No, it worked. This time it worked for everyone. Got it. Okay. So now I will stop this. So now the creating albums works. So now, okay, let me see. We need to go ahead and maybe do something like. So what we are gonna do is, so we create albums. So we still have out of time. Good. I will go to my form. Delete this. Delete this. So now what I'm gonna do is I will go my form. I will do right click and I choose view designer, which is here. So I will make my actual form a bit small. Move this a little bit to the top. And this one. So what I want to do is when the user switch to this tab, I want to automatically retrieve the albums from database and then list them in a list box here. So before doing that, we need to first add the list box here. And so we have this here. And so the first list box will be, I will name it as, let's say, LSD albums. So this is gonna list the arguments. What I'm gonna do is I will add another list box just next to it, which is gonna be called LSD songs. We will do it later, but for now, I will just insert it here. So when an argument is selected here, and we will add a button, and when this button is clicked, we want to list the songs associated with that argument. So these are both. So I'll make the song a bigger, maybe, and I will add this button here, bigger as well. So I will name this button as properties. Text will be show songs, and then its name will be VPN show songs. And the second list box, I will name it as LSD songs. Okay. So for now, what we want to do is when the user switches to this tab, the list of arguments should be retrieved from the database and displayed in this list box. Okay. But so we need to identify when this tab changes, right? So to do that, we will do something different because there is no automatic event like double clicking on this doesn't create this selected index changed, event for this tab control. So we have to do this manually. So I will right click here, go view code, and then here, when you are here after this catch now, after these parentheses, or just before this here, okay, to let you guys locate better, we will create a new method. So we will write private void. So tab control, right? The name of the control is tab control 1. And here we will create this selected index change event just bar ours. And here we will paste object sender, then event part E. So it's almost the same way it's defined, right? For example, for load here. So you can actually copy and paste this and then change this name to this. Right? So you don't have to remember all these details. So next, what we are going to do is, so we want any code that goes here, in the statement here, to be executed when the tab of the tab control changes. So for example, you want to just check this message box, show tab is changed. Page is changed. So we want to execute this each time the tab page changes. So to do that, what we are going to do is go to View Designer, and then here choose the tab. Okay, choose this one. And in the properties, you should see this. Okay, tab control 1 to make sure you selected it correctly. And here, click this one. Events. And as you see, it's automatically selected. I think the most common method is this one. In my case, selected index change. So here, click on this drop down, and then choose this one. So we associate this method we defined. Oops. This method we defined, we associated with the with this event, selected index change event, we do this association. That means this method will be called whenever the selected index of the tab control changes. So I will run this. So you can also try to test it. And so if you switch any tab, as you see, it will give this message. The tab page has changed. It doesn't matter whichever. So in this case, it doesn't let us do it automatically. That's why we have to create it manually and then do this association from the properties window here. Okay. And this is the way it works. So for example, form 1, it has this association already. For the what event, it says call this method. And this happens automatically when we double click on the form. But for the tab control, it doesn't work automatically, so we have to do it manually. But so what we're gonna do is when the user chooses the third tab, like this one, we want to list the get the albums records from database and then put them here. So we need to know user has switched to this particular tab. So to do that, so I will delete this one. This was just for testing. We need to check if tab control 1, its selected tab is equal to tab page. It was called records, right? Records where the tab page where all the records are displayed in two list box. So if this is the case, now we can get the album records from the database. So what we are going to do is actually quite easy. So first we need to create this DB context file. So we'll write music DB context underscore DB equals to new music DB context. And from this DB context, you guys remember it has these two properties, albums and albums and songs. So these are kind of proxy to the tables in the database. We use them to add new album or song, but we also use them to retrieve the existing albums in the database. So what I will do is I will just write albums, and then here you need to convert them to a list. So this is going to be actually the data source for the list box. So what I will do is I will write LSD albums dot data source equals to this. And for the list box, whenever we want to display some data with list box, we always have to define its value member and display value member, right? So I will say for the LSD albums value member will be ID, right? This is the ID of the album. I know this ID is a property, primary key for the album, as you see here. So for value member, you always provide a primary key value. And for the list albums and the data display member, here we will provide just the, I guess, if you go back to album, we will provide album name. So we want to display the album name when the album records are listed. That's it. So this is all code we need to be able to retrieve the album records from database. So I will run this. So here we have some albums already created. So if you switch here, now it's working, and now as you see it listed here. So I just switched there, and then the list box will be automatically updated. It may take some seconds. Worked? No. Did you create already an album? Gaia, do you remember? You can create a new album. Can you create a new album? Like
Okay.
the manage albums. Rumesa, did it work?
I don't have any album in the list records part.
But go manage albums here, and then
Yes.
over there, just add a new random album and click create
I
album.
didn't.
You did it. Then can you go to your database? Can you see my screen? And then on the albums, right click and say view data. Can you check if there is any records over there?
Yes.
You have. Then why it didn't work? Can you check this code?
Which part?
So it goes here. Maybe this is the part you missed.
Top control.
We have created by ourselves manually
Yes.
this method. Rumesa,
It's the same, John.
it's the same.
Yes.
Did you do this? Did you go to your form design? Choose the tab. Did you see I choose the tab? Right click, properties. And then here I set this.
Oh. I didn't.
Okay, here you need to choose that method. Selected
which
index
one?
changed. Selected index changed. We choose this tab control 1 select index change.
Postlara girince boş yazıyor. Yani şeklinde
Ha var bir şey ama gözükmüyor.
isim yazmıyor. Adın neyi yazıyor?
Did you write this any typos here? Like album name?
Yazmıyor.
Did you check the album class here? Like this album name, it's the same as album name here. Or you can even copy and paste.
Hocam bende selected index change diye bir kısım yok şeyde.
Kodun içinde.
Evet. Ya properties'e gittiğimde öyle bir şey bulamadım.
Bakalım.
Behavior'ın altında.
You just choose this one. Onu yazmaya gerek. Bir şey çıkarsa.
Şöyle
Data yazılmış.
Şimdi çıktı hocam.
Tamam. O zaman son yaratma kişiyi yazın. Nerede şimdi yazıyorsun? Samadhi şeyi verdin değil mi? Yaratırken şey yazsın aklına. Tamam, sonra bakalım. Bir şey bakalım. Any questions from Zoom participants? And I need to charge my computer. And you enter these right information like that text for the album name. Okay. So now we have this. So we have the album listed. Next thing we will do is to create the songs. So here I will go to manage songs. And so for the songs, what I will do is first I will, so to decide what form elements you need, you can just go to songs. So you need a field for name and also for length, right? But then you also need to choose the album associated with the song, right? Like the album that the song belongs to. So we need three things, and I will go to my form. So first one is the song title or name. I have the label and a text box. So song has also a name. It doesn't have that. So here I will just fix my properties window, and I will switch to properties parts. So make sure you switch back to this properties part, otherwise events will be stayed open. So here first field, its text will be song name. I'll press enter, and the text field will be txt song name. I'll press enter, and I will copy and paste these two to create the length in seconds. So I will put this here, and label will be, let's say, length. in seconds. And then the text fields, its name will be txt, let's say song length. And here I will add a combo box, which is here in the common Windows forms. So combo box will list available albums in the system. So here I will also add a new label. So here it's gonna say, the label will say album, and the combo box, I will say combo box underscore albums. Okay. So right now we almost have that form. What I will do is just add it in the copying this create button and this label from here. I will copy them from the manage albums and at least them here. So you can rearrange things if you need. And then this one, I will change the button to, its name will be btn create song, and its text will be create song, not album. And then this label, I was also change it very fast. Its name will be a message song, and its text will be fill the form to create a song. So today I think we will finish around 12:40, and I hope this works everyone, but if you have to leave, that's fine, because you will also have the video recording later. And so, but I recommend you to stay if you don't have something super urgent. So right now what we need to do is to be able to actually create a song, we need to choose, right? Not only entering the name and length is sufficient, we also need to choose the album associated with the song. So that means when users switch to this tab, we should also retrieve the album records from database and bind them here. Okay. So to do that, we will go, I will right click here, or you can just double click on the create song. Okay. So we won't write something here right now for create song. What I will do is I will go this selected index change event for the tab control 1, and here I will write else if, right? If tab control 1 selected tab is equal to tab page, and it should be songs, right? The tab page where we create the song, it's tab page songs. If this is the case, actually what I will do is I will copy and paste this code we have previously, because this code actually retrieves the albums records from the database and bind them to the list box. We will almost do the same thing, but this time we won't bind them to list box, we will bind them to combo box, right? So combo box albums. So I will copy this and paste over list albums. That's it. This is gonna just retrieve the album songs and it will display them in the combo box. And this is gonna happen when users switch to this tab page songs. Okay. So run this. It was running, so I'll run it. So if I switch to manage songs, now you will see this, and now as you see it's listing my album. I have only one record and it shows it here also in the manage songs page. You also have it here, right? Now we also have it here. I create a new album. albums created. If I go manage songs, now as you see, it already displayed here. So if you create a new album, you should be able to see it there. So the same problem goes, you still have the same problem with Mesa, right? Okay. Okay, we will check it. After we finish, we'll check it, but I think something very small, slight thing that we cannot see it. So now our goal is to create a song. Okay, now we have this album list available for creating a new song for that album. So we can go ahead and create this new song. So I will go to my create song, click length here, right? So again, we will add a try catch block here to catch any possible errors. And I will copy and paste the label these lines to here. This time it will be label message and I think it's a song. That's it. So to create a song recorded in the database, first we need to create a song instance in our program. So we'll write song, let's say user song. As you see, it worked. Okay, user song, and it will be a new song. And here I will just use these curly braces to create a song instance very fast. And here the ID we don't provide, it will be automatically generated in the database. The length we will provide it. So I will run in parse to convert this txt song length to an integer, because I know that length property is an int type. And besides that, what we need to provide is the name of the song, which will be equal to txt song name dot text. And last thing, we actually indicate the parent album. So parent album, normally what we get from this dropdown, right? We need to choose parent album from the album from this dropdown list, right? From this combo box. But this only returns us the value. So for example, if you write, let's say here, combo box albums, it has this selected index, right? Selected item, and it has the selected value, right? So selected value will return the ID of the ID of the album selected. But we actually need the parent album object, right? It just asks for the object, not like it doesn't care about the ID or name or whatever. So this is a limitation. This is a kind of limitation that we need to do something to overcome. Normally, what we used to do is we just provide this selected value. We were supposed to provide only the ID of the selected album, which is accessed here, right? How do I know this? Because when we here bind the albums to our combo box, we indicated that its value member is ID. That means when you use a selected value property, this is going to return the ID of the album selected. But right now it only accepts the album object itself, not the. It requires all entity. So we will mitigate this issue by doing some small changes. So what I will do here is change here a little bit. What I'm going to do is I will add a new property here, just under this. Maybe it doesn't matter. It can go under or above. So here we will write a new property. This is going to act as a foreign key. So we don't want the entity framework created automatically. We want to explicitly indicate it. And this is going to be actually parent album ID. And here, so normally here, right? So we have this property right now. If we go back our code again, right now we don't have to use this option. We can press here, and as you see now, it let us use this option, parent album ID, and which will just work fine here. All you need to do here is one more thing is to convert here to an integer using explicit casting. So to create a new song, we just need to get the ID of the album from combo box, which is set to parent album ID property. And this one we have just created inside our song entity. But one more thing is we need to indicate that this is just this is not a regular property. This has a purpose. This is a foreign key. So to do that, we go here and then write foreign key. And then once we have this, we need to ask for little help from the C# and then Visual Studio, and then you apply the solution, which means actually just import the related foreign namespace for foreign key. Once you do this, now it's okay with green color. And inside there, you need to indicate this parent album. And here you just paste it here. Okay, that's it. So this is the way you explicitly define the custom foreign key. So two things, okay, you just add a int property, and here use the foreign key data annotation to associate this property with this property. So here you indicate, okay, value of this. So do you say this is the foreign key of this relationship? So now this is a change in our model. So any changes you do in this classes, you have to go to package manager console, add a migration, and let's say custom foreign key, and then we'll run this. And what will happen is it will show us some code where this default foreign key is dropped, and then it adds a new foreign key. Okay, as you see, it creates a new foreign key. So I will go here, and I will just say update database. So now, if I go here and if I refresh my item songs, do you remember this is the foreign key created by default by entity framework? If I refresh this, go columns, still has the same foreign key. So refresh again. No, it's correct, right? Actually, name it as parent album ID. I think that's correct. Yes. It was different than this, I think. Anyways, it doesn't matter, but it still it worked because here, as you see, our new foreign key name is also parent album ID. So right now, if we go back to our code, now this is gonna just work fine. So we don't have to use parent album property. Here we can just use parent album ID as the foreign key, and this is equal to the selected album from the drop-down list. So now we need to go ahead and create the song. So to do that, I will create a new DB context file. And then here we will add this to the songs. User songs. And under this, we will just DB save changes. So don't forget to call save changes. So right now, everything is fine. So we should create the song instance to database. So run this. So if we go to the many songs, it's gonna retrieve the data, data from database. So we'll create a song 1, length is let's say 1 of 20, and I will choose it here. This one, I will click create song. I hope it worked because we didn't write the code to change the label. We will do it. So what I will do is for now, I will just go my database, right click songs, and then choose view data. Now, as you see, the song is created and parent album is ID is 5. And if you go to your album's data, you will see that 5 is the ID of this album, which is fine. So now what we are going to do is maybe code here, we can kind of copy and paste this from the previous click event from the album. So I will copy actually this part, at least changing the label. Then I will paste it just under here when we create the song. So now we will change the message song to song is created. We'll also change this song to this. And what else is we can change the song name text to empty text. And I think I will need you a bit more of your guys' time. And then the length will be also equal to empty string. So there's only one last step left, which will take I think 5 minutes. So the only thing that is missing is on the last part. This is the records. When an album is selected here and the user clicks on show songs, the songs that belongs to that album should be displayed in the list box. So go ahead and please double click on these show songs. So first, normally we can get, okay, first we will create this MusicDB context again. So what we can do is normally we can get all the songs from database by just calling this, right? So this gets all the songs. And then we can just store this item some list. Right? So, but what we want is we want the songs that belongs to the album selected from the list box. So to know which album is selected from this list box, we need to use this property of the list box, LST and albums, get the selected value, right? So this returns the selected album ID. So this returns this, but all we need to do is we also need to do this explicit casting. So I will actually move this to the top, or I don't know, I would say I will move this before here, okay? So we first get the ID of the selected album, which is fine. And here, actually what we want to do is we don't want all the songs. We want to filter songs based on the selected album ID. We want the songs whose album is actually this album selected. So to do that, you guys remember we use where, right? So here you can provide some parametric value. It can be anything, it can be just S. This refers to the song instances, and we want the songs whose parent album ID is equal to selected album ID. So, and then I will change actually this variable. I won't say filter all songs, I will say filter songs. So using the where, we get the songs whose parent album ID is equal to the ID of the selected album. So here, this doesn't matter, okay? You can just type even a song here. It's just a parameter name created on the fly by the compiler, but you don't need to worry about what it is as long as it's a valid and unused variable name. So it can be just S, it can be song, it can be any other things. So now what we need to do is we need to bind this to our list box. So we have this list songs. So for this data source will be the filtered songs. And then we need to also assign the value member, which will be the ID of song. List songs, and the display will be the, so I can't remember right now. I will go my song class, its name. So here is the display member. I will just put name. And that's it. This should work. So I will run this. Previous one I will rerun this. I'm sorry that the class took longer than I expected, but this was important session. And if you have any questions, I will be here around, so you can let me know. So if, for example, we choose a new album, actually we can choose this and click the show songs. And as you see, it's listed its song. It only has one song, yes. I think this one doesn't have any songs. So if we go manage songs and create a new song 1, for my album, I will create it. Song is created. Song 2. For my album, I will create it. It's created. And if I go list records, choose my album, click show songs, as you see, it lists all the songs. And that's all for today. You have a quiz that you can take whole day, and then there will be lab assignment also. You can complete until next week. The lab, it will be similar. I can't remember, but it might be a little bit. There might be some additional things you may need to do it. But if you can survive this week, next week, then you will be good, hopefully with a good grade. That's all for today. If any questions, there are any questions first from Zoom participants. You guys were so quiet, so I don't know if everything is fine, or I don't know if you are still with me. Okay. Okay, see you, Emre. Tabii ki. Which part? Tamam.
Hocam, benim geçmiş labla ilgili bir sorum
Tabii
var.
ki. Bir saniye. Okay, except everyone left, so I will end the session for today.